Thing to be Chewie, you know, he had his family, and he still had time to run around with Han. Who knows what he was getting, what kind of strange he was getting in them cantinas. You know what I'm saying?
So you'd fuck a hammerhead, is what you're saying.
You know, if I was Chewie, it might not be a big deal, you know. But let's start off. So, although you missed 20, you're here for 21.
Well, I'm always there when people turn 21. That's part of what an alcoholic does.
Yes, well, this is 21 of the Mean Geek comics podcasting on the edge of civility. Not sponsored by Kurt's Comics, but a happy co-partner kind of copacetic vibe with him.
Oh, is he taking sponsoring away?
No, he was never sponsoring. He was he was all together with us. You know, he would be in with us more if you didn't have a 6-week-old child. You know what I'm saying? But
the band of the hand.
I don't know what that means.
You look it up.
Anyway, so yeah, although 20 hasn't been released yet, we're recording 21. I'm going to upload 20 tonight, where we gather and hang out at Kurt's Comics and yap about all things Marvel and make fun of old people and reiterate over and over again that Gambit is gay.
Gambit is gay.
He's totally gay. And not in a bad way. He's just gay. But anyway, we got some random kind of crap to get over with. Like the fact that we're now part of the Comics Podcast Network, where you can find awesome podcasts like Comic Timing, Collected Comics Library, Just Bill's Long Box, and that's not this Bill, that's a whole nother Bill. The Fixer's Hideout, Crankcast, and many others.
My personal favorite, the Fluvium Bob.
The Fluvium Bob, which is not actually a podcast on the Comics Podcast Network.
But it will be now.
Us. We're going to have to copyright that. You can also catch us on Podcast Alley, iTunes, Feedburner, and our own website, www.themeengeek.com. Leave us a review on iTunes, for God's sake. No one has said a fucking thing yet. John, I know you want to go over there, leave a review. Somebody's going to notice us.
We did get an email.
And we love John for it. And one day I'll get those goddamn things out to him. I really will. As soon as I find some packing tape.
We got a second email.
Now that I've got the box back from when the Rev lost it,
yes,
when his girlfriend moved in.
I do tend to lose things. That is valid.
Anyway.
We got a second email requesting more top 5 lists.
Yes, and we'll get around to those probably in 22.
All right, fair enough.
Unless we're going to do it 22. We'll schedule it now for 22.
Next time, kids, more top 5s.
For the first thing we want to look at, though, is yet another thing I plagiarized shamelessly off of Newsarama.
You are creepy.
And we're thinking, after Watchmen, right, which was widely regarded as completely impossible to put on film, what else would hold that mantle of there's no way you can get it right on the screen?
Let me interrupt you, because I have a fact that I heard the other day.
Oh, yeah?
Apparently, they're trying to refilm Leave Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Really? Well, I mean, if there's anything that needs to be remade properly, it's going to be that fucking steaming pile of shit.
It's got to be impossible, because here's my take on this. Here we have a great franchise that's not well known.
Yeah.
Yes, Alan Moore is one of the greatest comic creators of all time.
All right, but that's a very insular community, so...
And you go to ABC Comics, you have an even smaller, and then you go to weird Victorianly based comics, you have an even smaller. Comic book movies succeed in the theaters.
Yeah.
And Leave Extraordinary Gentlemen was a dog.
Yeah, it was.
And people are not associating that name, for the most part, with the comic so much as the dog. So I don't know who's planning on trying to redo this. Maybe 20 years down the time you'd have a chance of it, but right now, logistically, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, nobody's gonna... the bad taste really isn't out of many people's mouths yet.
No, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is neck and neck with Van Helsing for, hey, I want to piss off fanboys award.
Now, I'm going to need your help on this list, because there's a literary thing that I don't even think is a comic book, or maybe it's a really ancient, like...
All right, we'll start from the beginning.
Like timeless classics. Like,
what is the list?
All right. The first thing they want to throw on is Sandman.
The list is unfilmable comics?
What could potentially take the mantle of now unfilmable? What would be so difficult to film it almost wouldn't be worth trying?
Sandman is definitely...
Yeah. It's just too goddamn long. Trying to compress all that shit. I mean, you could make an entire movie out of the first arc. And that was only 3 issues. 4
6.
issues. That was 6?
Sam Keith,
his
6
capture
issues.
And all the way out to...
Yeah, because he escapes in the first issue. He's got to get the helm, the stone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, all right, 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would need, to do that arc justice, I would say 2.5 anyway.
But here's the thing. Like, you are looking, and I hesitate to say this because I understand your point, but you're looking at it as a whole, which is unrealistic. When you do Daredevil the movie, you're not doing 500 issues. When you do Batman the movie, you're not doing 600 to 700 issues. When you're doing Sandman, you're expecting 70 issues in one film, which is just not conceivable. So if they were to make that film, it would be the first arc.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, because you're looking at it as a singular storyline, the same thing that you might do with Transmet, or Preacher, or even Hitman, something with a finite date and a full story.
Right.
You're thinking of it as a whole, but if they were to make a film of Sandman, they're not going to try and encapsulate 66 to 70 issues.
Because it would be an incredibly bad idea.
Exactly. So when you say they'd have to do the first story arc, that is what they'd have to do. It's not, oh my God, they can only do it if they do it this way. That's the logical choice.
All right, well, would you prefer it as a episode by issue HBO?
I don't trust HBO because I love Deadwood and they killed it, and I loved Rome and they killed it. So if they made Sandman the series, I'd have 2 awesome seasons, and then suddenly it would be canceled.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting there like, what? So no.
Fucking hate you, home box office.
Yeah, come on. Because I need more Adam Sandler films to play on repeat constantly. The fact of the matter is that they've made great series, but if they're expensive, they die before they should.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, Sandman would be expensive, so I couldn't trust HBO as much as they might do it well to continue it long term.
Anyway. Yeah, I can see that.
But that would be the optimal. Seasons would be optimal for that. But the first storyline, in particular for Sandman, does translate well to film. Because it's episodic, there are several key points, and it ends on a high note. You could make a movie out of the first storyline. And
even though there's not a big bad, there is definitely an antagonist, a very specific set of antagonists.
You've got Constantine, you've got Brute and Glob, you've got
the guys
Destiny.
Who trapped him to begin with.
Yep. Gay British dudes. You've got a lot to choose from there.
Gay British dudes. You're thinking Preacher.
No, not that. Think about it. The guy holding them in the weird 70s orgies.
Yeah. I'm an Englishman and a Yorkshireman. I take it up to shoot, and I'm not afraid to say it. Of course he beat the shit out of me.
And that would be Preacher and not Sandman Kitties.
Correct.
But, no, I do think you could film Sandman as a whole is unfilmable. The first storyline is not necessarily so. But to pull it off, you'd have to encapsulate so many little details quickly, that it's an extremely challenging project.
Sure.
Like, how do you explain Dream in that short period of time?
with great difficulty.
So, if you can pull that part off, you could absolutely make a Sandman movie.
Now, I don't even know why this is on the list, because I think with recent history, it's quite feasible. We just have to wait, say, a decade. Dark Knight Returns.
No, it's cake.
And, yeah, there's nothing. It wouldn't even have been anything 10 years ago if it wasn't for Joel fucking Schumacher and his...
Joel Schumacher did more to damage the Batman franchise than Adam West ever could.
If Adam West actually hated Batman and was on amphetamines and coke at the same time, along with some heroin...
Jesus.
Because they actually... I know you didn't see it because I lost it before you could watch it, but there was an episode of Batman Beyond where they had the dump fight between
really?
Newton and Batman, and that was actually reasonably good. It was only like 10 minutes because it was inside. It was a retelling. The old Batman was telling the new Batman Beyond what had happened at some time in the past. So it wasn't. It was a story inside a story. So but yeah, this shouldn't even... Why would they even bother putting it on this list?
Well, because it's been unfilmable for years.
Doable.
But here's the other aspect of this, is that Frank Miller has actually, on different levels, retread so much of the same ground that you could actually edit more out and keep going than you could 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, when it originally came out, you want every single aspect, because this was the pinnacle of Batman.
Sure.
This was somebody breaking Batman down to his very basics and making it perfect. But Frank Miller has since retouched on so many of these issues, and comics have so expanded beyond that you could now edit it. Like, people were shocked at the ending of Watchmen.
Yeah.
I thought it made sense. Like, you bring a giant
space
squid in.
I was quite fine with it.
Space squids are hard to pull off without a lot more extrapolation than you could have in the film. By turning it to, and I assume people, you've seen this, if not, turn the fucking podcast off. And by the way, don't listen to podcasts if you don't watch the basic movies, because really, I can't do this every time. If I have to block my comments with these little moments, like, hi, boys and girls, this is the Reverend Mad Duck, and I'd like you to know I'm about to talk about something you may not have seen, so please stop and then come back in 5 minutes. No, fuck you. Watch the movie or don't listen. By turning it into Dr. Manhattan, it made a huge logical progression.
Oh, yeah.
It was like moving the death of Boromir to the first Lord of the Rings movie.
Right.
It ended on a different note. It made much more sense than killing him off at the beginning of the second movie.
Yeah, it gives him an entirely different character arc and allows him to be redeemed a lot more effectively.
So these changes... As things evolve and new things happen and whatnot, and things are not suddenly as sacrosanct as they were 10 years ago. So I think that's totally filmable. Long as fuck. Don't buy a Coke, but filmable.
Or you could go to runp.com.
I'm sorry, what?
runp.com.
I'm going to continue in my I'm sorry, what vein.
Runp.com is a site that actually tells you when the best periods of a film are to go to the bathroom.
So, say if you were watching Braveheart and the guy's about to get hit in the head with a mace, which is one of the coolest parts, and you have to pee and miss it. I'm sorry, Dan.
The thing is, you do have to look at your watch, because they're like, do it, because they try not to spoil things for you, so they're like, do it 33 minutes in.
Funny urine movie watching story.
Funny urine watching movie.
But when I went to see the rebirth of James Bond in Casino Royale, had a huge Coke, had to go. Got to the end of the film, left, came back as the credits were rolling, and I was with the inimitable Shelty. And he's like, dude, you know what you missed? I'm like, he shot the guy. And he's like, wait, what?
What else was he going to do?
I'm like, come on, dude. I watched
It's not
the
really
whole
a
film.
surprise, is it?
I knew what was going to happen. He was going to show up and shoot somebody at the end. Come on. You're wasting my... And the kid was all freaked out that I knew Bond well enough to know that somebody was going to get shot. By the way, kids, again, if I've ruined Casino Royale, a movie that was out 3 to 4 years ago, during this podcast, you're not a geek. You should not be listening. If it's taking you this long to see a Bond movie, you're wasting my time. Go listen to the My Little Pony podcast, available at yousuck.com.
Oh, I love doing podcasts. So, now, this one I need a lot of help from you from.
No good.
Because I've read about it. I have never bothered reading it. Because, frankly, Grant Morrison is completely hit or fucking miss with me.
Oh, this would be fucking, not Doom Patrol, but...
Yeah, you can do it. I know you can.
Oh, I don't like this book at all, and I'm suddenly choking on the name of it. Oh, God. With the bald guy, King Mob, and the witch... The Invisibles.
That's the one.
There it is.
Yeah. So you tell me you've read it, because otherwise
I have read
this
some
list
of the
goes
Invisibles,
useless.
and it is totally unfilmable. It didn't make sense in episodes.
I have no idea what in the hell is going on.
It's not unfilmable. It's incomprehensible.
This thing was ripped to shit, apparently. I mean, it's censored all to hell and gone. You know, I kind of want to read it just for, I was like, really? They actually printed redacted comic books? I would love to.
What, the Invisibles?
Yeah.
The Invisibles is the kind of thing that would make you curl up in a ball and cry about how comics have changed. There's a transsexual witch.
Well, I mean, it's kind of
It's not your... I'm just telling you. I'm using that as things that the tech Jedi does not enjoy. Transsexuals are in the top 5.
Oh,
Witches are in the top 5.
All right, we're mean. We're not hateful.
I'm not implying that you... I'm just saying if you have to read about something, probably not in your top 5.
I just don't... Never mind. That's going to just do a whole bit of weirdness there. Yeah, I have no idea what this book is fucking about. I've seen it many times on the racks, and I'm like, maybe later.
Yeah.
And apparently, I was justified in that. If there's anybody who knows anything about what the fuck the Invisibles was and can explain even a lick of it to me, I would love that. Give us a mail.
Now, let's take 5 seconds here. Is there a Grant Morrison book that you understand?
Well, there's plenty of them I understood.
Such as?
I understood what was going on in JLA.
You did not?
Yes, I did.
You can't tell me the plot of half of his storyline.
Because it was 10 years ago. I knew what was happening when I was reading it.
Lies.
That's not lies.
But,
I understood what was happening in the Batman of Zur-En-Arr. I didn't really dig it, but I understood it. It wasn't until Final Crisis that my complete fucking hatred really concretized and became crystalline clear, and holy shit, shoot him in the neck.
You did, however, enjoy the first aspects of the first 10 to 12 issues of Animal Man.
Yeah.
There were,
and then it got funky after that.
Absolutely,
like, what the
fuck?
What?
Issue 7, the Red Robot issue, you really liked. The first 4 with dude turned into gorillas. I can't even say it with a straight face. But as much as you hate Grant Morrison, you did enjoy the first few arcs of Animal Man.
Yes. These are accurate. So, yeah, enough of that nuthatch. Tell me, for God's sake, that you've read Gravity's Rainbow.
Thomas Pynchon?
Yeah.
No.
Neither have I. Let's move on.
But I can identify who wrote it.
Which is more than I could do before I read this article.
There's a comic based on this?
Well, I mean, that's the one I mentioned before we even got started, where I mean, does it make sense? Was it a Classics Illustrated? Something like that?
Not to my knowledge. No, it's not that old a classic.
Paranoia, rocketry, and 40s occultism. Doesn't mean a damn thing to me. However, and I know you haven't read this because your hatred of literary sci-fi is legendary.
What do we got?
Neuromancer.
Ah, Mr. Gibson.
Yes.
No, I have not read that.
It was an incredibly short book. I don't see why they couldn't do it. I think that they would have a rough time getting past the Matrix comparisons, though. Because, I mean, that's what they were looking at.
Your name is Neo and you're...
So, yeah, I mean, the whole idea was, you know, jacking into a computer network, and that's been done in the movies. So, Egypts that have never read or even heard of Neuromancer or haven't watched the extras on any of the Matrix DVDs will think it's a blatant ripoff. But it's totally conceivable to do. It just may be a little deep for a summer popcorn flick.
I don't even know if it's necessarily deep. It's just been passed on.
Well, yeah.
It's like you look at Asimov in the day and how deep certain aspects of storytelling was and how further along these ideas have come. I never watched iRobot because the whole idea annoyed the crap out of me. But I'm pretty sure it's pretty different from what Asimov was looking at.
It's totally different. And that was, essentially an anthology of a bunch of robot stories he serialized. But yeah, I mean, there was one story that they kind of blew up and expanded into a whole movie. So, iRobot, there we are. But no, I mean, if they really wanted to do it, if they thought they could get past the whole Matrix rip-off stigma that they would undoubtedly get, yeah, they can do that. I mean, it's no big deal.
My big question is, when eventually you can jack into your computer,
I've got dibs on my neural jack right now.
Well, you just want to jack in so you can jack off.
Oh.
And that's where I was going.
Well,
by the way,
it would be
my whole debate here was based on that pun.
Well, you remember what Dennis Miller said, though. I mean, and I'm sure this is your take on it as well. When an unemployed iron worker can sit in his Barco lounger with a channel clicker in one hand and a Foster's in the other and pluck Claudia Schiffer for 2010, that's pretty much the end of the fucking universe.
Remember, Foster's is Australian for beer.
Yes, it is.
All right, moving on.
Actually, that was the last one in the article.
Really? That was it?
That was the whole thing. I mean, everything else. I mean, you can make an Avengers flick. You can make a JLA flick. You can make a Hitman flick pretty easily. That wouldn't be any big deal. You mentioned that yourself.
All right. What would be unmakeable? Because I'm not loving. I mean, outside the Invisibles, Egypt would be unmakeable.
I would fucking hunt down and burn every print of Egypt. That thing was so incomprehensible. I wanted to punch Peter Milligan in the neck when I was done reading that.
Name one thing Peter Milligan has done that you didn't want to punch him in the neck for.
Actually, he did a couple of Batman stories, and he's done a thing or two recently with shorter stories with Cap, I think, that were reasonable. But his solo, I'm making it up as I go along stuff, I can do without.
The Peter Milligan, Mike Aldred X-Force would be unfilmable.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. But no, there's so many things that people are willingly accepting of these days that it shouldn't be too much of a stretch on the majority of the mainstream or even semi-mainstream comics.
Well, here's the other aspect.
They're making Hex, for God's sake.
But here's the other aspect of that. Is filming something with the title necessarily making it?
That's another good point.
Look at From Hell or Catwoman, to take two extremes of the same scale. But are either of those honestly an honest portrayal of the source material.
Well, I didn't read From Hell till after I saw it. So I didn't think it was remotely...
You know somebody stole my copy of From Hell?
Really?
Yeah, it pisses me off to this day.
Who? We don't know anybody else reads fucking comics.
Somebody at work.
You gotta quit giving shit away to people at work, man.
I like people.
I keep telling you that. You won't listen to me. Anyway. But no, Catwoman was so far removed that I just couldn't handle it.
As was From Hell. The basics are there as they were in Catwoman. As horrific a film.
I didn't find From Hell to be a horrific film.
It's not horrific, but it is so far from the overall scope of the actual graphic.
Well, it got way too deep. I mean, they're not going to film 40 pages of Mason history about how they laid out London. It's just, that's not going to get on the screen.
But the depth of it, all you had to do was take the basic idea and the title and make a film. And
sure.
That's my point with all of these properties. Like, you could make an Invisibles film as long as you take all the depth and the interest of the storyline out of it. And to be fair, I don't find the Invisibles all that interesting, but somebody does.
They must have. It ran. It was printed.
You make a Doom Patrol movie. You can do any of these things if you only break it down to the bare essentials. Daredevil, which was a surprisingly better film than it should have been, was not good. It didn't tell that story exceptionally well. It broke down the essentials, and it did certain things well, and it bastardized the rest of it till where it worked on film. If you watch a Daredevil film, should you feel like you have a full understanding of Daredevil? Hell no.
No, because you're going to piss off a lot of Catholics that way, too.
Well, there is that. But if you watch Batman Begins, you can say that you have at least a basic understanding of the origin.
Right.
And of major characters.
Absolutely
is the Scarecrow
correct.
Considerably different? Yes.
Yeah. All right. I can see that. I don't... Off the top, I don't see anything else as unfilmable.
I'll tell you one that's unfilmable.
Incredibly difficult, some of them.
Howard the Duck is unfilmable. And to prove my point, George Lucas has already proved that.
Well, that was 86. Ain't nothing was being done well back then. If they
had a guy in a duck costume.
If they did straight up animation or straight up CGI
with a duck banging a hot redhead, you wouldn't watch that either.
Well, I mean, it would be NC-17 bestiality, but I mean, it would come off a whole lot better, no matter how good the animatronics in that.
I don't think so, because I don't think the properties age well. That's the other aspect. Is Howard the Duck was satirical for its time. It's a great book. I enjoyed it. But Howard the Duck now, I mean, they just did that with Max a couple of years ago, and that was an abortion. They turned him into a mouse.
Yeah. Didn't need that. Didn't care about that. Ugh.
And then you had the Lobo the Duck. I mean, you're looking at... You take the basic properties and try to carry... And this is actually something I have a problem with in comics as well, is when you revamp somebody and try and take only what you think you can work with. Like, look at the Golden Punisher. Where he was a... Mike Golden did the...
Goldman. I thought you said Golden. I'm like, what
but the Punisher
was that a mini
an avenging
I missed?
angel from heaven.
Oh, no, that was horrifying.
But what it was is take the basic idea and then turn it into whatever you want without respecting the property as a whole.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened there.
And it happens again and again.
Yeah, because you're always going to get too many hands in it. And they're not going to talk to anybody about it. They're just going to say over and over again, what if we did this and what if we did that? Do you think that would test well? Blah, blah, blah. And that just sucks. So, here's a question for you.
What do you got?
Why would any woman ever date Kyle Rayner?
Well, if they have a death wish.
That's one.
If they like guys in uncomfortably close black latex outfits. If they like really stupid looking eyewear.
The crab cow.
If they find it attractive when men go, I don't know what to do.
Alright, so that's an answer. What's the significance of the black power meter and the black rings?
I like to think of it as how many bones in the dead person's body are being revived at one given point.
Which, since the cat is tearing apart the house at this point.
The cat owns the house at this point.
I'm pretty sure everyone who downloads this can hear this at this point. So yeah.
Yes, listen carefully as my cat destroys my security deposit.
I don't think that's really a question that needs to be examined, is it? I mean,
people at this point are spoiled. And I drink a lot, so I hesitate to put this out there.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to make it as clear as possible because I really believe this.
Yeah.
When Hal Jordan puts his ring into the lantern,
right,
he powers up. That's the extent of it.
Yeah.
Weird little charts as to how powerful his ring is. His ring powering down is a storyline mover.
Yeah, it's
not a scientific fact.
Right. I mean,
there's no alien Green Lantern in real life to judge this by. Right. Like, Hal's ring had only been powered up 4 hours earlier, so therefore he should have been at full power when he was fighting Sinestro in the middle of the evil swamp alien plant war. That's the kind of thing that kills comic book.
It really is.
There are levels, and obviously we're more sophisticated audience. I can't talk. What do you want from me? We are a more sophisticated audience than we used to be.
Right.
Even people that have been reading comics all along, you can say all you want. Well, I look at it the same way I did in 1960. No, you fucking don't. Better books are out there. We are less forgiving of garbage. That's why it's so much harder to introduce a new character.
Yeah, that's absolutely accurate. Because we were talking about that just on the last cast, which is being posted tonight, even though we're recording this one tonight.
Blasphemy.
What?
Podcast without me just make me sad.
Yeah, well, you'll get used to it eventually. Because I'm sure one day somebody... Never mind.
Moving on rapidly.
No, Biggie made the point. What major, long-lasting, impactful Marvel superhero was created and had success after Lee stopped creating?
Oh, Sleepwalk.
You are such a fucking lying piece of shit.
No,
begging for a reaction.
After Lee started, let's see, that had impact. Several of the Avengers, you could make arguments for. She-Hulk.
Okay.
You can't argue that She-Hulk has had an impact. I mean, she's been a member of the Fantastic Four.
So there's several vague ones and one big one.
Several X-Men, if you want to get involved into that.
All right, the whole new X-Men, that was mentioned. We did mention that.
But even past that, Bishop, for a short period of time, had a huge impact on the X-Men as a whole. And still a character floating out there. Gambit, who I loathed when he was popular. Rogue.
All right.
Shadowcat.
Okay. Good.
But
good.
If you want to get outside of the X-Men, which of course is
you know, none of those have had their own series except for minis.
That's true. It depends. You know, it depends also on the impact. Like, is having your own book necessarily? Thor's had his own book and been a side project.
Yeah.
Time and time again. War Machine.
He hasn't impacted my reading, I'll say that. You know, I liked him better when he was Rhodey and occasionally taking over once in a while before he would get a headache.
Fine. You want the best answer possible?
Sure.
Punisher.
I knew you were going to head there, and that's what I was going to say.
Did you guys say that the other day?
Punisher was mentioned.
Yeah. Obviously, Wolverine, Sabretooth.
Yep.
You've got... But, yeah, Punisher would be the most impactful because he's carried over into so many different areas.
And for God's sake, he had 3 of his own books, aside from one-shots and minis. And graphic...
King of the minis.
And full original graphic novels, like Assassin's Guild.
You've also got... And I loathe this character.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider.
I'm right next to you, but... hi, how are you?
Ghost Rider's been hugely impactful at several different periods. In the 70s, again in the 90s.
Yeah.
And floating around, they brought him into the whole Darkhold and that whole period. Consistently a draw, as much as every time I read it, I'm like, why is this happening to me? And who did I know that gave me this book?
And yet somehow he keeps getting his own books. And you know, somehow his own books keep getting canceled.
Well, you know, and then you have things that are on the cusp.
Yeah.
Like right now, and see, this is where things get hard because they want to push characters and change them. Like, how many times do you try and make Moon Knight a major player?
Ugh. For God's sake, leave the guy alone. Mark Spector needs to... is he even Mark Spector anymore?
Hell if I know. He's got 14 personalities to choose from.
Well, yeah. And in that pile, you'll read something interesting about that.
But,
Or was it in the Spideys you gave me?
You also have...
It doesn't matter.
It was in the Spideys. You also have, in that vein, what they're doing right now with Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
There's a character they're trying to turn into a huge power player for years to come.
Well, her own book is selling well enough not to get canceled, and that's a good start. And she's starring in one of the Avengers books, so that's not a bad thing. So, all right, very good.
I'm going to give you one more, though.
We were way too busy making fun of each other to cover anything remotely this interesting.
That's why I should have been there. Yeah. One more that I think is a huge power player, starting to move into his own. Luke Cage.
Ah. Okay. You know, they got a noir for him now.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, I figured that, it's not really a noir. I haven't read it, but I'm assuming it's a full-on 70s blaxploitation Luke Cage.
That might actually go over far better than the noir.
Well, it would have to, because if you did a 40s noir Luke Cage, yes, sir, man, I'll punch that guy in the head till his head comes off, is not appealing.
I shine your shoes right after I beat his ass.
Yeah, no, but
yeah,
if
that
you
wouldn't
go
be
the whole
entertaining at all.
Blaxploitation Luke Cage, you have a much more entertaining.
You know why that
prospect.
wouldn't be entertaining?
Because it's racist and horrible?
Well, yeah, KKK members can't actually read. When you... I like the pictures.
Illinois Nazis. I fucking hate Illinois Nazis. By the way, kids, if you don't recognize that quote, that means you've never seen the Blues Brothers, and therefore you are no longer allowed to listen to this fucking podcast. Take your new transforming fucking transformer, shove it up your My Little Pony ass, and move along. Because I'm done with you.
Gas up the dinghy and go fishing with Fredo.
There you
You're
go.
dead to me.
You broke my heart.
See, and that's...
Timber! Cat in the trash can!
And that whole little tirade went on about why is the black power meter important?
What's the next question?
That's awesome. Why is it important that Black Lanterns analyze the emotions of others?
because they have none of their own.
I'm thinking that's exactly what it is.
It's like Rom the Space Knight. Only completely and utterly different.
Same but different. No, different but different. Okay.
You killed the invisible swordsman. By the way, kids, that was from Three Amigos. And if you haven't seen that film, I really don't care. You're allowed to still watch.
Cabo will appreciate that particular reference. Well, yeah, they're dead. We're going to find out, and I'm probably going to... Well, no, fuck it. I'm going to spoil it for you, because I know the journey's far more important to you than the destination in these things. Turns out they may or may not be resurrecting souls.
Intriguing.
When they're bringing them up there.
Well, they're going to bring people back in this. There's no way around it.
Oh, no, they're absolutely going to do it. But right now, as it stands up to issue 2 of Blackest Night, it's probably not yet bringing their souls back. It's just reanimation with a little touch of personality in there.
My question is, though, as far as Blackest Night goes, and loving it, huge questions all around. We're going to do an entire podcast of Blackest Night one of these days. But let's look at the first 2-3 issues for a moment, 30 seconds in, and say, of all the characters they're bringing back, are they resurrecting everybody? Because they've only brought back people that make a key point. Before you even go, just look at the Flash villains they're bringing back. Just those 3. You've got Roscoe Dillon in the top.
Right.
The second most loathed Flash villain after Reverse Flash, Dr. Zoom, Golden Glider, and Digger Harkness, Captain Boomerang.
Yeah. Can't stand Digger.
But my point being is that all 3 of these are potential useful characters that they've killed off and would like to have back.
Sure.
But almost every name that you've heard is a character like that.
Right.
So when you look at Blackest Night, is everybody coming back?
All I can say, without totally blowing your mind, is wait till you get to 2.
Fair enough.
There's some real questions about the point of some of the resurrections. I mean, really? Fucking why? Those there will be panels you'll hit that you're like, yeah, what the fuck was the point of that?
Because if they bring Vibe back to life,
if they bring Vibe back to life, I'm not buying number 4.
Dude, fuck that. I'm starting a campaign to become a writer for Marvel so I can kill off Vibe for the second time.
DC.
Yeah, I was trying to kid there.
Oh, okay.
Anyone who didn't know that Vibe was a member of the JLA during the worst period of all time and not a Marvel character can suck my left nut.
Comics podcasting on the edge of civility.
We've passed the edge, kids. We're floating above it, holding a sign up that says, "Oh fuck," just like Wile E. Coyote.
I knew you were going to go there. That's awesome.
All right.
So those are all the real questions. The rest of them are kind of, what? Because nobody cares where Ray Palmer is.
He's in Cry for Justice.
Yeah, well,
hanging out with a giant monkey and a gay blue alien.
Well, I mean, those were Cry for Justice appears to me, at any rate, to be a semi-Elseworlds. So who cares?
No, because I read an article on Cry for Justice which states that it's going to have huge repercussions in the entire universe.
So when the hell is it set?
Right now.
Right now, in the middle of Blackest Night.
Well, I assume it's, they're going to play it out slightly differently, but the Cry for Justice is going to have an impact on the universe, not to the same degree as Blackest Night, but just like Blackest Night will.
Okay.
Which sucks because Kongorilla is involved. And by the way, kids, Kongorilla will be joining Kickers Incorporated, Goblinita, Furries, and NFL Super Pro in the Bill likes to fuck with this particular project all the time.
You know, we could cut it off right there and be awesome.
All right, what else you got? What else, question-wise?
Seriously, how does Kyle Rayner keep getting women?
He's young and he's hot and he's an artist.
That was the next question, yeah.
He's got good hair, too.
And he's a super-duper hero.
Also, he's open about being a hero.
Ooh, he's
Like,
open.
Come on,
He's
dude.
open to new experiences.
Well, you know, she better be, because he's got the ring that can become anything he imagines. If you can't get a girl with a ring that can do that, you should seriously consider becoming a monk. Just like, you know, Green Arrow the 14th.
The 14th. Alright, so we're through with the philosophical shit.
Into straight comic time.
Deadpool, Merc with a Mouth, 1 and 2. An enjoyable read. I'm not real sure they can cook up enough stories to sustain 2 ongoing
Is there a second?
series.
Is there a...
This is the second series.
What's the first one? It's still... Deadpool
Just
is
plain
still
old
running.
Deadpool, yeah.
I assume when I saw this that the first Deadpool... Because I don't read anything with mutants anymore. It just saves me
Yeah.
heartaches. But the first Deadpool series was a lot of fun back in the day.
If you say so, I didn't bother.
And it's just a fun character. I mean, I didn't see the Wolverine Origins movie, so I don't know how he was portrayed in that. But the Joe Madureira drawn first miniseries was one of my all-time favorite reads.
You know, how many times? I mean, I'm curious here. How many times? Because I'm sure there's got to be at least a dozen. Are they going to start off a series sending somebody to the Savage Land?
Did his plane crash?
No plane crash in this one.
Dude, you can't go to the Savage Land without your plane crashing. That's understood.
Well, no, it didn't happen in this one, so...
Blasphemy.
No, something... I mean, you can't really... He was inserted. I mean, there was a crash.
Well, then I feel better.
It wasn't really a plane, but, I mean, he was intending to go there. He was getting paid to go there. And it's his little takes on things he sees amuse me quite a bit.
It's fun. His sense of humor makes for a fun comic. I mean, here we are 2 issues in, based on what we've read. And am I dying to find out what happens? No. Like, if I never saw this book again, am I going to lose sleep? No. But am I enjoying it? Yes. You know, there's a zombie head. There's a hot, evil agent. It's like a Bond film on crack.
And, I mean, you covered it. I really don't have anything to add right there.
But, so... To my mind, am I blown away by this comic? No. Am I dying to read it again? No. But anything this fun, do I have a problem reading it again? Hell no. And, you know, shouldn't they all be fun? Also, the covers are kind of hysterical right now. Sodium doing the spin on Jaws and the Kazar cover.
Yeah. Now, did they finish off this story?
No.
No, yeah, it's another cliff. But it can't be too much of a cliff. I mean, I think they could probably pull it out and call it even on the next one.
Well, based on what I've read, available and affordable, I would continue to pick this up until they piss me off.
Well, luckily, I mean, it's still one of the... Oh, no, it isn't. The first one started... No, that's... What the fuck is going on here?
You're just hallucinating.
$3.99 for 1 and $2.99 for 2.
Welcome to comic books in 2000 and... What year are we in?
9.
Wow, we're in 2009?
Yeah, it's pissing me the hell off, and it's also halfway through goddamn August. So, this year is not treating the Tech Jedi well outside of podcasting.
But no, I wouldn't say that I endorse this book. I will say I'm enjoying it. I'm intrigued as to where it's going. And it could, if it continues in this vein, could become a book I'd endorse.
Yeah.
I can go that far. I'm just not willing to say I do it right now.
Yeah. Well, I'll read it in the shop again, sure. We're going to go 180 degrees on your comics appreciation scale.
Yeah.
Star Wars Invasion 2. We find a little bit more about the Yuzhong Vong. We see Luke Skywalker still around. That's a bonus for you, isn't it?
This is... here's my point. This is miles ahead of the other 2 Star Wars comics you made me read.
Those
However,
being Legacy and Knights of the Old Republic.
Or as I like to call them, Star Wars Suck and Star Wars Blow. But is this phenomenal? No. You've got...
Well, we're still ramping up. You know? It's got Luke. Han and Chewie come in soon. They do.
Really?
Yeah, but yeah. They're all still alive at this point.
I'm not sure that's a good... Like, back when Marvel had it, and Han and Chewie and the whole comic was going on, did you love that book?
I only read like 10 of them. Because
you didn't love it.
No, in the first year I started collecting comics, it had its last issue.
Which I owned and gave you and is wretched.
I had it on my own as well.
And wretched.
I didn't even know it was the last issue. I was like, ooh, fucking Star Wars comic, hey. What? And I read it, I'm like, no wonder it's the last issue.
It says last issue on the cover.
Yeah.
Alright, you were a dumb child then, apparently. Good to know. No.
It did make 108 issues, though.
How many issues did Rom hit?
I want to say 60-something. A different time. A different time.
Yeah. No, and, but just taking a character I like and putting it in a comic is no way to make me to read the comic. Alright? You bought me Warriors #1, the comic book, and I love that film, and there's no goddamn need for that ever.
So you didn't like it? Kids, right now there's a little tiny humorous scowl on the Rev's face, and that's his "of course not, you fucking ponce" look.
Nice use of ponce, though. No, am I intrigued by this? Yes, Invasion is far and away better overall than the other two Star Wars books that are out there right now.
Despite the king that randomly had weapons on the planet that weren't supposed to have any weapons.
Yeah.
And the amazing coincidence that
yes,
he was a veteran of the Battle of Hoth.
But at the end of the day, Star Wars is a property that is hard to continue in a cool vein.
Well, cool veins.
As we move on to what is a cool vein.
Irredeemable #5. Special 99-cent promotional issue to go along with the trade paperback you
which
purchased
I picked up for the special $9.99.
Yes. 4 issues for $9 ain't a bad thing.
Nope. Irredeemable is a great read. This continue along that vein.
And it gets crazier and crazier every single issue. Like, he took over all the world's electronics and broadcast what is essentially, you know, I'm going to watch you and fuck you in the ass if you're not careful.
Yeah, it kind of felt like Howard Stern, didn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Hi, Bob. I see you don't enjoy my broadcast. Well, I'm Howard Stern, and fuck you very much. But we also see the heroes starting to fight amongst themselves, and we find out that one of the twins we thought was dead in issue 4 is
back.
not.
But he's all kinds of fucked up because now his twin is gone. That little link is no longer extant, and apparently he has no powers.
Which would have been cooler if we'd understood his powers before we found that out.
Right, they were incredibly vague. And then they bring in the, how shall I say this, Black Lightning analog.
Vibe there. As well as the Plutonian was apparently banging Gilgamesh's wife or some weird storyline there.
Yeah, well, he may as well been.
There's a lot of complex issues going on in this issue. I hate to use issue twice and within 3 words of each other, but
I'm loving this.
it is a great read. It is well drawn. It is amazingly well written.
It's got scale.
And it's intriguing.
It's got fucking scale to it. I love that idea. It's huge. They know of no fucking way they can make any headway against this guy because he is it. He's the shit. He's huge. what's going to happen. They can't fight him. I'm desperate to know what plot they're going to cook up to finally get this guy.
My thing is, the only thing I would like to see, and it would not be, to be honest, as much as I'd like it would not be as good a book if they'd done this.
Yeah.
Is I have to take the Superman character as the villain without seeing the pre-build up to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no history with these characters. They're starting at a point well into the storyline.
Right. Yeah, we're learning all of the backstory as the main story progresses.
Right, which is not as much fun.
Well, actually, I do kind of dig it.
Mark Waid is a great writer, but think about a couple years ago how Straczynski did the same thing with Rising Suns.
I never really made any progress.
Stars, rather.
I never really made any progress with that book, and I would really like to go back and do that. In our trade tete-a-tete purchasing every month.
Which brings us to another point. A little shout out to Cabo, our member from another mother, as it were, is a huge Ultimate Spider-Man fan, which is something that you and I have not always agreed with him on.
No. Until we really started getting deep and heavy into the damn thing. And we're just impressed all to fuck with it.
Yes. Based on our graphic reading experiences, kids, if you have the chance, Ultimate Spider-Man is a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
The first two graphics did not blow me away, I'm not going to lie. Were they bad? No. They were perfectly acceptable, which is almost worse as a description. But later issues of that book will impress you.
Just shoot right through the fucking roof. That is fucking comics right there, man.
It is everything you want in a comic book.
Yes, it is. That's what every comic book needs to be.
The ones I picked up...
I don't have the command of English to get across
the
just
ones I
precisely
picked up,
how much I
guarantee
dig
I'm going to pick up more.
Yes.
So, while the first two are excellently written, I wasn't blown away, but as they evolve, it gets better and better, so I wholeheartedly endorse Cowboy's choice of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Which segues us quite nicely into the new Spider-Man 601 by Mark Bloody Waid.
And again, here we have the perfect Peter Parker example. I got laid. I'm too drunk to remember it, and therefore things have to go horribly awry because I can't enjoy a single moment of my life. If I have an orgasm, I must black out and forget it, and then piss off the woman who gave it to me so I can't have a second one.
Until
really,
602.
let's just give him a lazy eye and a club foot and call it a day.
Make him boss-eyed?
Yeah, for God's sake.
Yeah, he cannot catch a break. I mean, and that's always what he's been about.
And let's not forget that while he was getting laid, he'd made a date with his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, currently forgotten first love ridiculousness, and then forgot about it. But she managed to
and when
sleep
he did
through
remember
it anyway.
Yes. That poor fucker, man. He just, there is not, and then his freaking long lost relatives come by and start taking over the house. He can't even have a moment's peace alone to think about what in the hell he just went through. You know, he's got some crazy ass second uncle somewhere taking over the house,
sleeping
with
in his
triplets.
No. And that's where Over the Top comes into play. I'm totally enjoying the revamped Spider-Man as much as I hate the Brand New Day storyline.
Yeah, the way we got to this Spider-Man.
And as much as J. Jameson, mayor of New York, bothers me on every level, I do have to say I'm totally enjoying this book, but for God's sake, give the kid 5 minutes to have a fucking sandwich he can actually enjoy.
Sandwich.
Because he gets nothing.
He doesn't. You know what, kids? At this point, we're gonna split up this stack and hit Marvel's Project, Hangman, New Avengers, Red Robin, Dark X-Men, Hawkeye, Invincible Iron Man, Captain America Reborn 2, and Cry for Justice 2 at a later date, because I actually have to think for my job in the morning. We're right at an hour where we really try to be. So despite the Rev not saying goodbye to you, I'm saying goodbye. Have a great night.